today for Take Another Look, Recent State Policy Changes Impacting Community Eligibility. We have a lot of different organizations who have partnered together today to bring this webinar for you, including the California Department of Ed, California Food Policy Advocates, Fresno Unified School District, California School Nutrition Association, and Partnerships for Children and Youth. Today we have a great panel of speakers. Hopefully we'll get to hear from Chelsea Cooper, but we're having some issues getting her audio to work. So if she can't talk with us today, I'll go ahead and fill in for her portion of the webinar. And then we also have Elise Homo-Vitale from California Food Policy Advocates, Jose Alvarado, the Food Services Director from Fresno Unified School District, and my name is Allison Maurice. I'm a Child Nutrition Policy Analyst with the Food Research and Action Center. I primarily focus on increasing access to school breakfast and doing that through the Community Eligibility Provision. We're going to give Chelsea a little more time, so we're actually going to jump right in with how the new legislation impacts community eligibility, and then hopefully she'll be able to come back and give us a CEP overview, but if not, I'll go ahead and do that. And then we'll hear from Jose about what CEP looks like at the district level, and then we will open it up for Q&A at the end. So, going to hand it over to Elise, I'm sorry. And Elise, if you can take it away. Okay, we're not hearing you, Elise, so I'm going to just... There you go, Elise. You can
hear me now?
Yep, there you go.
Great. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. I just want to say a quick thank you to all of the different folks that Allison just mentioned and my co-presenters for helping pull this together today. So as Allison mentioned, my name is Elise Homo-Vitale, and I'm a senior advocate with California Food Policy Advocates. My goal today is to inform you about recent changes to state-level policy, and that's policy with a little p, meaning the whole scope of the word, not just legislation, and to discuss why we believe it's a great time to take another look at the Community Eligibility Provision. But first, let me tell you a little bit about California Food Policy Advocates. We have been around for more than 25 years, and we are a statewide policy and advocacy organization dedicated to increasing low-income Californians' access to nutritious, affordable foods. Since our inception, we have understood the reach and power of the federal nutrition programs like school meals in reducing hunger and minimizing the harmful effects of poverty. For more than a decade, we have been deeply engaged in direct certification. As an organization, we are drawn to strategies that can have sweeping policy impact, removing nutrition and health disparities throughout the state, which is why we have been so invested in making direct certification work at its best and leveraging this tool to create hunger-free schools. Next slide. I am also the contact person for this webinar, and I've been getting a lot of calls just now on my cell phone. So if you're having technical issues, type it into your comment, I'm guessing the comment section, and hopefully someone on the tech side can help you get it to work. I will not be answering my cell phone in the middle of this presentation. Okay, so slide number 2. Here in California, 3 in 5 students are eligible to receive free or reduced price school meals. However, on an average school day, nearly 1 million, or about 1/3 of low-income students, miss out on the health benefits of school lunch. The numbers are worse for school breakfast. 2 million students, about 2/3, miss out. Many of you on the webinar are nutrition service directors, and you are the frontline advocates for why accessing school meals matter. Well-nourished kids are better prepared students to do what they're meant to do, to learn, to grow, to play, and to achieve at their fullest potential. We also know that school meals are particularly important for California students of color in schools with concentrated poverty who are facing systemic barriers to success. California's food insecurity rate is higher than the national average, and it is highest for our Latino and Black families. It may surprise you to learn that more than 2 million California students of color attend schools where more than half of the enrolled students qualify for free or reduced price school meals, but less than half of those students are reached by the school breakfast program. So we're seeing high need and low reach for our students of color. At CFPA, we think it's a very important strategy for addressing hunger and racial and ethnic disparities in education. We think this very important strategy is to make schools hunger-free, where every student receives a free breakfast and lunch, eliminating stigma and other challenges. So we could go to the next slide. Since 2004, Since 2004, school districts have been required by the USDA to conduct direct certification. I think most of you on the webinar are very familiar with direct certification. But in the, there we go, sorry, just making sure our slides are still there. Okay, I think most of you on the webinar are very familiar with direct certification, but in the simplest of terms, direct certification is a powerful tool for electronically connecting students to free school meals without needing to collect a paper or online application. Traditional meal applications have their pitfalls for sure. The form requires detailed and specific information that can be intimidating and easy to get wrong, and they often require quite a bit of administrative follow-up. So, direct certification certifies students eligible for free school meals by identifying them through CalFresh and other means-tested programs. However, California's direct certification process is a bit of a work in progress. For California, we have faced two major challenges over the years. One, while the state is making progress at improving the quality of direct certification match, according to available USDA data, only 74% of students that received CalFresh, received CalFresh in the 2014-15 school year were actually directly certified. And two, equally as difficult, as challenging, is our CalFresh participation rate is quite honestly dismal. The program only reaches 66% of eligible individuals, so even if our direct certification match captured all students in CalFresh households, CalFresh isn't reaching all eligible students. As a result of these challenges, schools commonly report that they are seeing more poverty in their school than direct certification identifies. And many schools here in California have as a result, struggled to meet the eligibility requirements for CEP. Next slide. At CFPA, we've long recognized the potential of direct certification, and I'll confess not everything on this slide is new, even though it's titled What's New, but I think it's important context to see how far we've come. In 2005, CFPA sponsored legislation that established a statewide direct certification matching system, and now you all get your direct certification extract from CalPADS. And in 2008, we sponsored another bill that preemptively authorized the use of Medicaid data in direct certification when our state received the authority to do so. In a few later slides, I'll discuss those two bottom orange circles. On the administrative side, we've spent countless hours working with the Department of Education, advocating for better systems and negotiating small improvements to extend the benefits of direct certification to more students. The department has a continuous improvement plan and have proactively applied for grants from the USDA that support this work and technical improvements to improve direct certification. And the biggest win of all, they successfully brought Medicaid direct certification to the entire state of California. Next slide. Starting this school year, all California schools participating in the National School Meals programs have access to Medicaid direct certification. California has been hugely successful at enrolling eligible individuals into health care following the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid expansion. And particularly with our low CalFresh participation, it just makes plain sense to build upon our healthcare success by connecting these students to healthy school meals. By using direct certification with Medicaid, known here in California as Medi-Cal, schools have seen major improvements in the number of students directly certified for free and reduced price meals. Medi-Cal has tremendous reach in California. 1 in 2 young persons are now enrolled in Medi-Cal, and there is this really ripe opportunity to better support low-income Californians by leveraging the reach of Medi-Cal to provide school meals. Next slide. However, enrollment in school meals is not the end goal. We all want to make sure that this new opportunity actually translates into more students consuming school meals, which is where SB 138 comes in. SB 138, a bill that was sponsored by CFPA, has 2 primary goals. 1, ensure all schools are utilizing the newly available benefits of direct certification with Medicaid, and 2, ensure that students in California's highest poverty schools are provided breakfast and lunch universally free. Serving universally free meals in high poverty schools is a key strategy to fighting hunger, promoting equity, and supporting academic achievement. Federal universal meal provisions like CEP allow high poverty schools to maximize their federal funding and serve free meals to all students while decreasing administrative burdens on school staff. And either Chelsea or Allison will dig into some of the details about CEP a little bit later. SB 138 was signed into law, and starting next school year, schools that have an ISP as determined through CEP, an ISP of 62.5% or higher, will need to serve 2 free meals to all students. With improved direct certification, CFPA thinks it's worth taking another look at CEP as the vehicle for serving breakfast and lunch universally free in your schools. SB 138 requires our highest poverty schools to move to a universally free model, but schools needn't be at that 62.5% ISP to make CEP work, both for their finances and for the benefits of their students. In an upcoming webinar on May 22nd, we'll talk more about how to make CEP work with California's education funding formula, LCFF, and how to strategically group schools to extend the benefits of universally free meals to even more students. Next slide. So concerns about lunch shaming and school meal debt seem to be ever present in the media and public discussion right now. I fully recognize the complexity of this issue and that the school food service industry is very concerned about and committed to minimizing stigma and feeding the students in their schools. Unpaid school bills are a serious problem for any school district. However, many students who have meal debt or come to school without lunch money are low income. This should qualify them for a free or reduced price meal, but in many cases, parents don't submit the needed paperwork, maybe because they have immigration-related concerns or their financial situation has changed since the start of the year. CEP completely addresses these issues. One of the sweetest perks of CEP is that it eliminates unpaid meal debt. In fact, I've heard from districts in California that they've eliminated tens of thousands of dollars in a single school of debt by moving to CEP. And this frees up money that ultimately would have to come out of your general fund. CEP also eliminates any possible concerns about lunch shaming. We see it as the best strategy for tackling both of these issues. Next slide. So I want to end with a really wonderful quote from a student out of San Diego. Her name is Noon Abdelaziz. Noon came up to Sacramento last year to testify in support of SB 138, and she very wisely shared, as you can see on the screen, that universal free school lunch could help all students see food as a tool, not a privilege. Thank you, everyone. I hope, next slide. If you haven't already, you'll find your preferred way to connect with CFPA and stay up to date on food policy and opportunities to engage. And now, I think I'm going to pass it back to Allison to see if Chelsea's logged on.
Yeah, hi everyone. We got Chelsea's audio to work, and she is going to go ahead and give you a great overview of the Community Eligibility Provision. Take it away, Chelsea.
Hi everybody, my name is Chelsea Cooper, and I'm an analyst in the Nutrition Services Division, and I'm also the lead over the Community Eligibility Provision. And I'm just going to go over the basics of the CEP. So the CEP is a 4-year reimbursement option for eligible high-poverty local educational agencies and schools and became available beginning in school year 2014-15 as a result of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010. It is a provision like Provision 1, 2, and 3 that makes it easier for schools with a high percentage of needy students to provide 2 meals a day to all students at no charge. An LEA can decide if they want to participate individually, if they want schools to participate individually, if they want to group schools together in order to meet eligibility, or if they want the entire LEA to participate. And while on CEP, schools must serve breakfast and lunch at no cost to all students. All right, the reason why LEAs are so interested in the CEP is because of the enormous benefits that this provision brings them. While in CEP, you will never collect a meal application or perform verification processing activities. This reduces district administrative costs related to collecting and processing applications, completing the verification process, and tracking students based on meal eligibility status. Since all students receive breakfast and lunch at no cost, overt identification and unpaid meal charges are eliminated. Schools on CEP also have reported increased revenue. These schools have guaranteed reimbursement percentages that will never go below the percentage they establish in their first year, and it has the flexibility to further increase revenue as additional needy students are identified during the 4-year cycle. And lastly, and most importantly, students who have access to meals and nutrition tend to perform better academically, have better health, and maintain better school attendance. To qualify to participate in the CEP, schools must have an identified student percentage, or ISP, of at least 40% based on enrollment as of April 1st of the school year prior to implementing the CEP. I will explain how to determine your ISP on the next slide. Schools in California that would like to participate in the CEP for school year 2018-19 must demonstrate an identified student percentage of at least 40% as of April 1st, 2018. When determining your site's ISP, you cannot round up. For example, a percentage of 39.98% does not meet the threshold and would not qualify for the CEP. Schools must agree to serve breakfast and lunch at no cost to all students. And lastly, the LEA must have a history of administering the National School Lunch Program or the Breakfast Program in compliance with program regulations. The ISP is determined by dividing the number of directly certified students and those students who are certified as foster, homeless, migrant, runaway, or participating in a Head Start program by the total number of enrolled students. These students must be listed on either a CalPADS or a local county list. You may not use meal applications to determine your ISP. The data must be reflective of April 1st of the year prior to implementing the CEP. You may include all students directly certified throughout the school year up to April 1st, as long as the student was still enrolled on April 1st. So if a student was listed on your October list, but for some reason they don't show on your, let's say, March poll, you can still count that student towards your ISP as long as they're still enrolled on April 1st. Districts have the option to implement CEP at a single site, a group of sites, or district-wide. If you're interested in implementing CEP at a single site, you would take all of your directly certified students from that individual site and divide by the total enrollment of that site. If you're interested in grouping, let's say, 3 sites together, you would take all of the directly certified students from those 3 sites and divide by the total enrollment of all 3 sites to determine your group ISP. When grouping schools together, you may include schools with ISPs below 40% as long as the group ISP is a minimum of 40%. And also just another reminder that you may not round up when calculating the ISP. When participating in CEP, reimbursement for meals served is based on the ISP times the multiplier, which is currently set at 1.6. The multiplier is a factor set by the USDA. Yes, it's set by the USDA. Schools electing the CEP are guaranteed to maintain the same multiplier for the full 4-year cycle. The ISP multiplied by the multiplier equals the percentage of meals served to be claimed at the free reimbursement rate. The remaining percentage of meals are claimed at the paid rate. No meals are claimed at the reduced price rate. Let's look at how the ISP and the multiplier are used in claiming meals served. Assume a school had a 50% ISP as of April 1st, 2018, and is implementing the CEP for school year 2018-19. The multiplier established by the USDA for schools implementing the CEP is currently 1.6. So you would multiply the ISP times the multiplier, so that's 50 times 1.6 equals 80. So 80% of meals served would be reimbursed at the free rate. The remaining 20% of meals served would be reimbursed at the paid rate. And once again, no meals are ever claimed at the reduced price rate while on CEP. Schools or a group of schools with an ISP of 62.5% or higher will be eligible for reimbursement at the free meal rate for all meals served when using a 1.6 multiplier. That's because 62.5% multiplied by 1.6 equals 100. So that means 100% of meals served will be claimed at the free rate. So you really want to try and get as close to 62.5% as possible when you're looking at your ISP number. The free claiming is capped at 100% regardless of how high the ISP may be. One of the concerns that schools have when implementing the CEP is that since they are no longer collecting meal applications, they won't have the data they need for the Local Control Funding Formula, or LCFF, purposes. Schools participating in the CEP, as with all provisions, still need to collect their students' individual socioeconomic status to determine funding for the LCFF. The way we do that is through the alternate income data collection form. This form is much simpler to fill out and collects the data you need for the LCFF. Sample household income data collection forms are available for calculating the school's LCFF needs. They are posted on the CDE's LCFF Frequently Asked Questions webpage at the address noted on the slide. It is important to note that processing these forms cannot be paid for with cafeteria funds, and you cannot reference the NSLP or SBP on the alternate income form. These forms must stay completely separate from the federal meal programs. You are allowed to establish an LCFF base year. This means that you only need to collect these alternate income forms once every 4 years. The data collected in year 1 may be used for LCFF in years 2, 3, and 4 of your CEP cycle. You would only need to collect forms from new incoming students in years 2, 3, and 4. Also, you do not need to collect these forms from students who are directly certified. The ISP is guaranteed to never go below the ISP established in the first year of the CEP cycle. If the ISP increases as of April 1st of any year of the 4-year cycle, the school may apply to use the higher ISP to calculate reimbursement claims for the following school years. Receiving the higher ISP for any year will not be automatic. LEAs will need to apply for the higher ISP each year or apply for a new year 1 to lock in that higher ISP for the next 4 years. As you know, Medicaid is now included on your CalPADS direct certification list. You may use students who appear as Medicaid free on your CalPADS list to count towards your ISP. You may not use students who are listed as Medicaid reduced. LEAs or schools must agree to cover the cost difference between serving meals at no charge to all students and the federal meal reimbursement. The use of non-federal funds is necessary only if the total amount of federal reimbursement through the CEP does not cover the cost of serving all students meals at no cost. Some examples of non-federal funding sources are profits from a la carte sales, in-kind contribution funds from outside sources, such as volunteer services or a cash donation. The deadline to apply for a CEP for school year 18-19 is June 29th, 2018. Forms SMP 19 and SMP 55 are located in the CNIPS download forms section. The LEA must complete both forms upon applying for the CEP. And if you have further questions, you can go ahead and contact your county analyst. So now I'm going to hand it over to Jose.
Great, thank you, Chelsea. And before we get to Jose's portion of the webinar, I just want to let everyone know, if you have questions, great, please type them in the Q&A box. I'm getting a lot of questions sent to me privately, and it's a little hard for me to manage them that way. So if people can go ahead and send their questions through the Q&A box, that'd be great. And then it sounds like a few people have lost sound. The only thing I can recommend is to log back out and log back in using the information from the email. So sorry about that. I'm sorry so many people are having technical issues. At this time, I am going to hand it over to Jose so that he can talk about community eligibility in his district.
Thank you, Allison. If you could hit the next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, let me go back a slide here. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jose Alvarado. I'm the Food Services Director for Fresno Unified School District. And food services is what we do, and community eligibility provision has allowed us to do that better. In 2014, when CEP was allowed to be implemented in California, we immediately got on the program, and our Board of Education, our superintendent, understood that the CEP would support the mission of food services to provide our students a nutritious and appetizing meal each day to do their best in school. So providing universal breakfast and lunch was a great benefit for us at the parent level, the district level. So our entire district, is benefiting from CEP. As mentioned earlier in the previous slides, nutritious meals and healthier students result in better attendance, better mental skills, improved behavior, and improved test scores. Many of our parents have reported to us that they love the idea of not having to worry about their students' meals, whether breakfast or lunch. So parents have been very supportive, and we got great feedback from our principals and administrators. Little background about our district. We have 74,000 students in Fresno Unified. We have 107 serving sites. We do approximately 25,000 breakfasts each day, 57,000 lunches. We do the snack program, and also we do the supper program, which we've commonly referred to in Fresno Unified as Super Snack. We do about 8,000 meals. But CEP has allowed us to expand our breakfast program and our lunch program, which providing universal breakfast helps our district, start off each day on a good note. We previously had 3 schools that were not serving breakfast, and due to various reasons, so now those schools are serving breakfast, and they report great success. So when we implemented community eligibility provisions, one of the things that we noticed right off the bat was meal applications were no longer required. We used to process approximately 15,000 meal applications at 18 of our schools that were on paid status. So not having meal applications reduced the administrative burden for our team and for parents. And offering breakfast and lunch at no charge to all students, regardless of income levels, was a great hit in the community. And it also reduced the streamlined our meal service operation, and it also reduced a lot of paperwork within our administrative office. Also, lunch lines were reduced. Cafeteria congestion was reduced because we did not have to worry about students on paid status. And another benefit of that, there's less cash in our system in terms of having to track cash. one of the great things is the additional reimbursement of revenue. When we implemented CEP, that was the first question that we had, is the revenue going to be better? So in working with our fiscal services department, our business office, we were able to determine that moving into CEP would allow us to have an increased revenue. When we implemented CEP, we saw a 5% increase in the number of breakfasts and lunch served district-wide. As I mentioned earlier, we have over 107 serving sites, and overall we saw 5% increase. Approximately 80 of those schools were on Provision 2, so the remaining balance of 18 schools went to CEP. So we saw the greatest increase at our newly provision schools. We saw a 52% increase in breakfast at the 18 paid schools, a 20% increase in lunch at the 18 paid schools, and overall, that was the equivalent of serving 1,200 breakfasts and 2,700 more lunches each day, which in our mind was like adding an additional serving site, a large high school. Some of the challenges that we worked through, and with CDE's help, was the direct certification process. And as Chelsea and the other presenters have mentioned, CalFresh, CalWorks, and Medi-Cal are now the main sources for direct certification. But when we first started, we worked closely with our local county agency to determine our CalFresh and CalWorks match with our student population. And now with the expansion of CalPads, we're able to use CalPads data, which is Medi-Cal on there, along with our CalFresh and CalWorks, and our direct certification numbers have increased. We also had the challenge of the free and reduced meal application data that is used by many departments within our district, but more importantly, the alternate income forms for LCFF. Free and reduced price percentages were driving the local control funding formula. So in our district, when we rolled out CEP, our district had to implement the alternate income form at 80 schools that were on Provision 2. So in working with our state and federal department and our fiscal services department, they were able to roll out that alternate income form to all of our schools. So we worked with another department called Parent University. We worked closely with our research and evaluation department and our business office to help them understand the alternate income form and how it relates to CEP. Today, we have 5 groups of all of our schools, and each group is at the 100% free reimbursement level. We went through many scenarios to figure out what grouping was the best. So we landed on a certain particular grouping that generated the most revenue. So you can strategically put your schools in different groups to maximize the federal reimbursement. So it's a matter of playing with the model and trying to get the highest revenue on your groupings. This is a copy of we call it the Confidential Family Survey. And that survey is annually collected by students that are new to the district, but we work closely with our research evaluation department. And as Chelsea mentioned, students that are already directly certified, there's no need to ask for the alternate income form. But we have shared this form with other school districts. We're not responsible for collecting it, and no food service funds are used to gather the data. But it's a very simple form, and the key to the success of CEP is engaging your business division, your CFO, to help them understand the benefits of CEP, because rolling out CEP and universal breakfast and lunch is good for students, and we've been very lucky to have good success. We're on our 4th year, and so this is a picture of some of our students at our nutrition center when we do field trips, but we believe that community eligibility provision is making a difference in our district for our future kids. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jose. So it looks like we have a lot of time for Q&A, which is great because we have a lot of questions coming in. So I'm doing my best to keep track of all of them. But all of my speakers, you guys are unmuted, so please feel free to jump in with any answers. The first question, well, I think we're going to rewind a little bit. So I just want to make sure we're getting a lot of questions about whether reduced price students count in direct certification, and the answer is no. Direct certification for the ISP purposes is only going to include those students or those eligible for free school meals. So just get that one out of the way. It's only for the free school meals. So one of the first questions we got, can you speak more to the elimination of unpaid meal charges? I don't know if any one of you feel free to take it away.
So this is Elise with California Food Policy Advocates. This was my slide. I'm not sure I have a whole lot more to say on this point, except that when you do CEP, unpaid meal charges go away at that school site. I don't know if California Department of Education, Chelsea, if you had more to say there. I'm not entirely sure what it was meant. Can you say more? Maybe if it had been a more specific question, I could comment on that. But
maybe I know we did later get a question regarding if you already have unpaid meal debt and then you opt into community eligibility, how do those work together? And I don't know if maybe Chelsea'd like to answer that. Well, essentially, sorry, I don't know if Chelsea maybe can't hear us, but essentially,
Hi, it's Chelsea. If you go into CEP with unpaid meal debt, it would still have to be paid.
Right. Thank you. So I don't know if the person who asked that question, if they want to go ahead and elaborate on what they're looking for, but we'll move on to the next question. And we've gotten this a couple times, and Chelsea, sorry to put you on the spot, but when will CDE be updating the CEP eligible, near eligible report? Do you have an idea of when that's going to be posted?
It's already in the process. It's with our data team to be posted to the webpage, so it should be up soon. And then we will be sending a listserv out, letting everybody know that it's posted.
Great. We all look forward to seeing that list for sure. So we have gotten a few questions about LCFF, and I will just quickly make a plug that we are going to do a webinar specifically focused on community eligibility and LCFF on May 22nd, same time, hopefully less technological difficulties that time. But the question is, are alternative forms for LCFF funds subject to any form of verification similarly to meal apps? And Chelsea, I don't know if you want to take that one.
I would say talk to the LCFF office.
All right. One question we got, how do you handle a visiting student from a non-CEP school at a CEP school? I don't know if I'm happy to answer this. So essentially, there isn't necessarily strict rules on how you handle this. USDA does guide, however, that whenever possible, that you still provide a free school meal to that student that's visiting without overtly, serving them probably like a alternative meal, trying to serve them the same meal is a best practice, and hopefully this doesn't put you in a position of having to eat a lot of costs, but USDA does suggest that you, when possible, just to provide them the same free meal as the other students are receiving. Another question regarding the alternative income form and LCFF says, why do we need to collect alternative income forms from new students in years 2, 3, and 4 if we are using the base year for LCFF? And if we don't have answers for them now, we would be happy to follow up with these LCFF questions at a later time. But I don't know, Elise, do you have any insight?
Could you repeat the question for me?
Sure. It says, why do we need to collect alternative income forms from new students in years 2, 3, and 4 if we are using the base year for LCFF?
Yeah, I'm not qualified to answer that question.
Okay. All right. We will follow up on these, but like I said, we are doing a webinar specifically focused on this where we will have experts who will be able to chat about this. The next question is, do we collect alternative income forms from non-directly certified students? Yes, at CEP schools, those are the only students that you have to collect forms from. If the student is directly certified, you do not need to collect an alternative income form from them. It's only the students that do not have that direct certification attached to them. Would we need to collect an alternative income form for homeless, foster, and migrant students? And again, the answer there would be no, because these students should be included in your directly certified list. So therefore, you would not need to collect an alternative income form for that family. Oh, here's a good question that I've seen pop up a few times. Will our district continue to receive state reimbursement for meals served under community eligibility?
I'm happy to answer that one. So, yes, you will continue to receive state reimbursement for all of the meals that are reimbursed at the free price.
Great. I didn't know that, so that's really great to know. Thank you, Elise. This question, please discuss in more detail the requirements that federal funds cannot be used to offset the cost of the paid reimbursement meals. I think they're trying to ask, like, what are federal funds allowed to be used for and not allowed to be used for? So, the federal funds, the reimbursement that you get through community eligibility, you're going to get reimbursed. A percent of your meals are going to be reimbursed at the free rate, and a percent of your meals are going to be reimbursed at the paid rate. You can use federal funds, that reimbursement, to go to offset the cost of the paid meals. What you cannot use the federal funds for is anything related to collecting those alternative income forms and processing that information. So that's where community eligibility is different from traditional claiming procedures, because now you have to use general funds in order to pay for things like processing applications. And then in terms of unpaid meal debt, same thing, that you need to use general or funds other than federal funds to be paying for that. And then I do quickly want to just make sure everyone knows that after this webinar, we will be sending out information on how to access the slides and recording for this webinar. So if this was a lot of information to take in right now, we'll be happy to send out that info so you can listen again and take a look at the slides. And also, if we do not get to your question today, please feel free to reach out to me directly at amaurice@frac.org. It should be up on your screen right now, and I'd be happy to answer your question or at least direct you to the individual who can. All right, we have a question from someone at a charter organization. So it says, we are a charter organization with 2 schools. Each school is an individual LEA. However, CNIPS sees us as one district. For example, our lunch audits, reimbursements, and meal submissions are under one account. Can we group these 2 schools for CEP purposes? No, Chelsea, do you know about that?
So there's 2 different CNIPS IDs?
No, so they have, in CNIPS, they're considered one district. However, each school is an individual LEA, but in terms of CNIPS, they're seen as one district, and all of their lunch audits, reimbursements, and meal submissions are under one account. Can they group those 2 schools together for CEP?
Yeah, I think so. If they're under one district in CNIPS, then they can group them together.
A question is the reimbursement still based on the amount of kids that go through the line, or is it based on ISP percentage of the student enrollment? I can quickly answer this one. The reimbursement is going to be based on both things. So your ISP percentage is what's going to determine the percent of meals that are served that will be reimbursed at the free rate. And then the ISP also determines the percent of meals that will be reimbursed at the paid rate. So in Chelsea's example, if you have an identified student percentage of 50%, you multiply that by 1.6, and that means that 80% of meals that you serve are going to be reimbursed at the paid rate. So that means if you feed 100 kids at breakfast, 80 of those meals served will be reimbursed at the free rate, and 20 of those meals will be reimbursed at the paid rate. Hopefully that clears that up for you. All right, I'm taking a look through. See what other questions we have. A few people have asked for sample alternative income forms. Yes, we can definitely share those. And Chelsea, I believe, are there sample forms on your CDE website?
There are. We have an LCFF tab that you can go to and find the sample income forms located there.
Great. So yeah, definitely utilize the CDE website because they do have a lot of really good information already there, including sample forms that you can look at it, as well as, all the things you're hearing about today. One other question we got is, can directly certified students be included in the ISP if they have denied the benefit? So I think what is being asked here is that if a household I think maybe there's 2 different things that could be getting asked here, and I'm not quite sure if I'm getting to it. But if a student is not living in a household receiving the benefit, then they should not be included in your ISP unless you count your direct certification earlier on in the year, and then they drop the benefit, they can still be included as of your April 1 numbers. I don't know if that answers the question, but if you need more clarification on that, please reach out to us directly.
Allison, I think what they were asking was if you have a student that's directly certified, and they receive the letter from the school saying you've been directly certified and respond back saying, no thanks, take my student off the list of free reduced grade school meals, can they be included in the CEP count?
That's a great question. Does anyone know?
I would look to CDE.
We think so if they're on the direct certification list.
Okay, that might be a good question for me to ask USDA about anyway, because that's a good question. I don't know how often that actually happens, but it would be worth clarifying that. So our sense is that yes, you probably can include them in your ISP, but that is something I might clarify with USDA. Someone asked, are there any disqualifying circumstances which would make a district ineligible? Aside from, you have to meet the 40% ISP threshold, are there any other things, Chelsea, that you can think of that would disqualify a district from participating?
We always say that they have to have a record of administering the breakfast or lunch program in accordance with regulations. So if the district has had a lot of issues or if there's been findings, then yes, we could deny them for that.
Okay. So somebody asked, we are looking at having a digital supplemental application form in the registration packet. Are digital signatures acceptable? I'm not quite sure what supplemental application form is.
Maybe that's the alternative.
Is that the alternative? Okay, so if you have an electronic alternative income form, are digital signatures acceptable for those? Any ideas?
I'm not sure. You probably have to check in with LCFF, but I'm also happy to follow up on that.
Okay. We got a question. Can we sell a la carte at a CEP school? Yes, you can. In fact, that is one way that you can actually boost some of your revenue. So sometimes, selling a la carte during a second chance breakfast can help bump up your revenue as well. Is CEP based only on direct certification?
Yes.
Yeah, so the ISP is completely based on those students that are directly certified, either through their categorical eligibility because they belong to SNAP, TANF, FDIPR, or Head Start, or because they are homeless, migrant, or in foster care. And you might need to get paperwork at the district level to verify their homelessness, foster care, or migrant status, but those students can be included in your direct certification counts in your ISP.
I have an additional question to that end, if I could. Are any of the categorically eligible students available through the CalPADS extract reports?
Okay, it sounds like we might need to follow up on that as well, Elise. Another thing I'd like to quickly plug is that you can also extend eligibility from students who belong to the same household as another student who has been directly certified. But you can only do that with SNAP and students receiving SNAP, I believe. I don't think you can extend eligibility for homelessness or foster care.
You can also extend for TANF and Medicaid free.
Great. I was wondering about that. So great. So you can extend eligibility to students that are eligible through Medicaid free. This question, this year, so as we learned from the overview, your ISPs are supposed to be pulled from April 1st, but this year, April 1st was on a Sunday. Are the numbers we use for CEP okay to be used from April 2nd? And we actually heard from USDA that that's okay, just to make sure that you're using a direct certification match that is on or around April 1st. So, yes, there is some flexibility there. Got a question. Can you apply to sorry, let me read this in my head first. Can you apply for two groups of two schools, or one group but two schools together, and then also apply for individual schools? The question was kind of written a little weird, but essentially I think what we're getting at here is you can have multiple groups, you can have two groups, and you can have individual schools at the same time. So there's a lot of flexibility in how you can actually participate in community eligibility. You can have as many groups as you would like, and also as many individual sites as you prefer. So the webinar information, everything is going to be emailed to you a few days after this webinar. We will send you the slides and a link to access the recording. And then also maybe we can provide a few of those sample alternative income forms for people to see. So I'll get those from our speakers. And then if we were unable to get to your question today, please do not hesitate to reach out to me at amaurice@frac.org. I just flashed it back up on the screen so you have another chance to see it. But I want to thank all of our speakers today, and to all of you for joining us. Definitely couldn't do this without everybody's help, and just thank you to all the nutrition directors and nutrition staff out there that are feeding kids every day. We very much value the work that you do. So thank you so much for joining us. Please tune in for our webinar on May 22nd at 1:30. Hopefully you've received information on how to register for that. But if not, please reach out to me, and I'd be happy to get you all set for that webinar. So, without further ado, we will call it a day. Thanks, everyone.